Time to fight fear with faith. Jody Paar is a survivor who is no longer staying silent. She and her guest will fuel you up so you too can fight fear. Uplifting and inspirational stories that will rock you to your core. We don't tiptoe around the truth. We steamroll it in a bold way. This is your life, and now is the time to start living it. Get ready for the Faith Over Fear podcast with Jody Paar. Now, welcome Jody Paar to inspire you.
Hey everybody, welcome to Faith Over Fear. I am so happy you are here. Guys, I have to tell you, it's amazing how God works things out. You know, I had a lady that I hired on Fiverr, and she was doing some work with me, and she said, "You got to meet Tia." And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I do. Because when I heard Tia's story, a little bit of it, not even a lot, I was like, this is so God aligned, and somebody out there needs to hear this. So guys, get ready. I'm so super excited to introduce Tia. She's a health and wellness coach, but she's so much more than that. So Tia, thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you. It's an absolute honor and privilege to actually be here and also to share my story with your audience. So thank you so much for having me.
You are so welcome.
And thank you, Aletta, for connecting us.
Yes, thank you so much for connecting us. Absolutely. It's such a God thing. And I say that so much because things happen and there's no way that we could have done that, right? Because I'm in the United States, you're in London, she's in South Africa, and it's amazing how God can just collaborate all of us. So yes,
I agree
so much for that.
Is what I said. It's not a coincidence. It's a God incident.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And we always start at the dark side of things. So can you tell me a time in your life where fear was present and you felt fear heavily?
Okay. I've thought about this a lot because if you really take a step back and you think, when did you remember being fearful? There's so many moments. You just think, childhood, is it teenagers? Is it, when you become an adult? What moment do you share? Because I think through my journey, fear has come in loads of different shapes or forms. Fear of feeling abandoned, fear of being let down, fear of failing. There's so many ways of thinking about how can I sum up a moment of fear. But I think after really spending some time and digging in deeper as well with your journey and your story, I think that inspired me to kind of share the story that I'm going to share now, because it's a completely different world that I'm part of now. I'm not in that kind of modeling world anymore. So it's nothing to do with health and wellness or nothing to do with Tia as a person, but it's a journey and a moment in my life where it reminded me that I needed to stop being so naive, because at this point of my life, I was probably about 21. I was actually fearless at this point. I moved to London with my son. He was only 4 years old. I had no family. I had no friends. I thought I could take over the world. I thought, this is my opportunity to run away from everything I'm trying to leave behind, and nothing's going to stop me. And I think this was one of those moments where, even though I didn't realize it then, God was like, hold on, stop being naive and take a moment to actually look at the bigger picture of everything in life. And I got approached for a job that was in Beirut. And as models, you get booked quite a lot to just go places and kind of be like a promo girl, kind of make the clubs look good and look pretty. And at that time, I was like, yes, this is all about me. I'm young, I'm free, I'm a model. I'm going to go and I'm going to rock this job and I'm going to make everything look good. And that was my naivety at the time. But thankfully, I actually knew one of the models beforehand. So when I connected at the airport, we had that instant connection, which I think helped when we got there and we were placed into this situation. And there was about 6 of us, and there was a load of girls from different areas. A girl came from Russia. There was maybe 2 or 3 of us from London. Then there was a few girls from Newcastle, some who actually came from Beirut themselves. And when we arrived at the airport, we were greeted we all had our individual black Range Rovers. So every girl had their own Range Rover. And at that point, we're thinking, this is amazing. This is life. We're all getting our own chauffeur. Then we got taken to this really fancy, it wasn't even a 5, it was a 7 seasons hotel. We just thought, this is the best job. We've come here, we're getting it all, we're getting looked after. But even at that point, me and that girl both said to each other, I don't want to be in my own Range Rover. It didn't feel really comfortable. It was, should we just share a car? So we actually jumped in the car together because I didn't really feel that comfortable being on my own in this strange country in a blacked out Range Rover. And when we were actually driving like we were some presidents. We were all back to back on the motorway, hazard lights flashing. And even at this point, we didn't even think twice of like, who's actually hired us? Who would go through such an extent to make sure that we got there safely and that we weren't going anywhere else? And as soon as we arrived, we got invited to the penthouse suite where the main guy that booked us all. And I had this natural confidence of, yes, I'm here and no one's going to tell me what I should or shouldn't do. And I think he noticed that boldness. So he instantly connected with me and was kind of talking to me, to the girls, but always coming through me first. And he said to me, can we have all the girls together and we need to organize the rest of this day and the rest of this trip? And he explained to us that for the whole weekend, all we'd be doing would be at this new club. We'd be there, making the place look good. Then we'd be joining them on a yacht and just creating atmosphere on this yacht. But he kind of explained it like there was going to be a big crowd of people. He didn't just make it specific, there's going to be like a small group of guys. He kind of said, there's going to be a party vibe. So that night we went straight into the club and it felt exactly how he explained it. We just thought we were there as these promo girls. And the next day we spent the whole day on the yacht, and halfway through I said to one of the girls, there's only like six or seven guys here, and it's a bit strange because there's 6 and 7 of us. So it's not really, this is not feeling much like a kind of party vibe. And the 2 girls who actually put this job out, we were starting to notice that they were a bit more open and free with themselves, and they were kind of all over these guys, and as where we were all quite reserved because every single one of us were models. We weren't there for anything else, and so we weren't interested in talking to these guys or anything like that. So that evening we all went back to our hotels to get changed, and one of the girls actually called my mobile and said, I'm in the room but I can hear someone trying to get into my room. And I was like, what do you mean? I said, maybe it's the housekeepers or something like that. And she said, no, it's like they keep trying to get in, and like I think she had her card in so they couldn't come in from the outside. And she started to sound really scared, and I called down to the reception. I said, I just want to double check, do you have housekeeping going around at the moment, because one of my friends are in a room and someone's trying to get into their room. And they said, no, like it's way too late for housekeeping. At this point it was 9 p.m. at night, so it was late because we don't have any housekeepers or anything like that. And then so I quickly called all of the other girls and I said, listen, we need like come to my room because something doesn't feel right here. Something's not, it just don't feel right. Then I got a call from the main guy and he said to me, where are you all? Like we're all waiting here. And I said, we're just in a room getting ready, but someone's trying to get into one of the girls' rooms. And he got really kind of agitated on the phone. He said, can you guys just come like now? You need to come upstairs. You need to come to the suite. We need to, and at this point I said to the girls, why are they asking us to come to a suite? We're meant to be here to be promoting something, not to be in any penthouse rooms or not to be in any parties in a hotel. That's not what we've come here for. But some of the girls were still quite excited about the lifestyle, and they were like, no, we need to go there. But it just didn't feel right. And that's when I kind of put my foot down. I said, I don't think we should be going anywhere, and we need to stay in our rooms. Some of the girls left, they went to their rooms. And in this meantime, that girl's still in her room and she's still on the phone and she's saying, they're still trying to get into my room. Well, when these 2 other girls went to their hotel room, the same thing happened to them. As soon as they entered, within a couple of minutes, they had someone banging on their door to kind of let them in. And when I finally called back to the reception, I said, there were guys banging on all of that, because it started on our room, trying to get into our hotel room. But the receptionist was acting really kind of like oblivious to it. And he said, oh no, there should be nobody at your room. I said, can you please send somebody to our rooms, because we're scared. We're all young and there's people banging on our hotel rooms. And I kind of looked through the little spy hole and I could see it was these guys. And I said to my friend, I said, we're not here for a modeling job. Like, we are here because there's been some sort of arrangement, and these guys think that we have come here for more than just a modeling job. They think they've come here to whatever reason, that whatever they want to do with us. And until this day, I don't actually know how some of the other girls, what kind of went on with their evening. But the girl that I shared the room with, who I'd already met beforehand, we refused to let anybody in. We refused to let anyone in our room. We wouldn't let these guys in. And then, so we spent the whole night, we couldn't sleep. Someone kept trying to come in all night long. My phone kept ringing from this same guy. And something just said to me, don't answer. Like, this is not right. You're not here for a modeling job. And I just felt it was wrong. The knocking kind of stopped about 5:30 in the morning. So me and this girl, we went downstairs to reception. As we went downstairs, I saw all of the guys jumping into these Range Rovers, and even the two girls who booked us. And because I was so vocal and I was telling the reception, I'm going to call the police. I'm going to call the police because you're not making us feel safe. You're not sending anybody here to our rooms. And we're here petrified. We're all young from different countries. And as a hotel, you're doing nothing. I'm going to call the police. And eventually the manager came to speak to me, and they all left. And I said to the girls, they booked us to come here, and those girls have just left. Like, that proves something is wrong. That proves that something isn't right. And the manager came, and the manager was completely like, get your stuff and just get out of the hotel. So we had to find our own way from the hotel back to the airport, and then find our own way back. And even though now I've made it sound like quite a small, short story, at the time, I remember looking back and saying to my friend, what if we drank? What if something wasn't telling me not to drink? What if something didn't make me feel that, obviously now I know that something was God, and I know that God's protection was on me, even though I wasn't really acknowledging him at that point in my life. So what if we let them into the room? What if, because the fact that the guy who actually booked us and the two girls who booked us had completely disappeared and left the hotel and didn't even say goodbye to us, that confirmed that situation could have gone completely worse if I didn't have that feeling. Because at the time, it was kind of a bit of a clash between me and the girls. And they were like, we're here to have fun. You're just kind of being like a party pooper. Nothing's going to happen. We're all fine. And, and I said, what if that one girl didn't call me first? And that one girl didn't say to me, there's someone banging on my door. What do I do? What do I do? And we had to spend the whole night kind of on the phones with her as well to make sure because they were still banging on her door. So I said, what if it didn't happen in that direction? And I remember in that moment thinking, okay, I don't know what's going to happen to us here. So when we talk about fear, it's like, I think that's the first time, because I was so naive. I was traveling all over the world at this point, going to do modeling jobs here by myself, never taking a chaperone, never really looking into the details. And I really do feel that God made that situation happen because I needed at that point in my life for someone to stop me, because the people that I was surrounded by, it was leading potentially towards escorting worlds or other kind of environments. And I feel that God had to make that situation happen because there's 6 girls all under the age of 23, 22. I was 21 at the time in Beirut, don't know who, till this day, we don't know who these men were. These girls had completely deactivated their whole, at the time, it was a website called Star Now where you could book models through. They had completely deactivated their profiles, never responded, because when I came back with this vengeance that I wanted to know what happened, what was going on. We had to find our own way back to the UK, all of these situations that when you're 21, you don't ever think you're going to find yourself in. And there was nothing, no responses, no more communications after that. And even when I was telling my husband about this, I said, looking back, anything could have happened at that point. Even down to like with your story, you don't know what you get yourself into because you're sold a dream. We got sold quite a lot of money to go there. I thought, this is amazing. 3 days work. I'm paying my bills for like the next 3-4 months. This is perfect. There's nothing, all I need to do is stand and look pretty. But my naivety could have potentially have got me, whether it would have been raped, whether it would have been, you know, human trafficking, whatever it would have been, is only because I had that little bit of that voice, that Holy Spirit voice sitting there telling me to stop, don't take it any further, and to, you know, take caution. So I definitely feel that was probably one of the most scariest experiences that I've been through, and that has been a turning point for me to really step up my naivety game and open my eyes and listen more to when the Holy Spirit prompts.
That's so good. And you know, I think parents really, really, really need to listen to this, because Hollywood glamorizes all kinds of materialistic things. And this is one thing that traffickers definitely use. And so thank God that you had the smarts and the brains to be like, okay, yeah, this is flashy and pretty, but something doesn't feel right. Like when the Holy Spirit, and I always talk about that gut feeling, like always go with your gut. There is a reason, there is a warning there that is telling you, do not do that. And I know in my story, I had that same gut feeling, but I did the opposite. I went ahead and did it anyway. I ignored it. And so with your situation, and you all being models, and you all being in this fancy yacht and in this fancy thing, it could have easily turned really, really bad. You know, and I'm actually even thankful that the guys were forceful about getting in and not just knocked on the door nicely, because then it could have been like, oh, there's our friends from the yacht, and then they could have forced their way in. Well, that gives me chill bumps. So God was protecting in so many different ways in this trip that you guys were on. And I think it's so important for awareness that if you do get a modeling gig, if you do see a website thing, be very careful. I had another guest on here, same thing. She thought she was going to Greece for a big job, and it ended up not being that. It ended up being human trafficking that she found herself in. So it's so important that we research and we know that we know who we are talking to, because just like you said, the website disappeared. You know,
and especially because the leading up to it is the same route of every other job I've ever applied for, because their website's still there, but their profiles have disappeared. And this website's a trusted website. It exists till today. And, you know, and you can't even report something because their profiles are no longer there. So and all they need to do is just set up a new profile under a different name, and it was literally the same. It's a casting. You get told what the job is for. You get told the amount, the days. You then confirm. They then confirm they say you go for a casting. My casting was over, it was Skype at the time. The girl seemed completely legitimate. There was nothing for me to think that she was, you know, she was really lovely. There was nothing about her. Even when we arrived, she was warming. She was, you know, really comforting to all of us. And it's like you said, even they obviously came knocking the doors forceful, because we were already meant to be upstairs in the penthouse. So they're probably thinking, you know, we've paid for these girls to be here and they're not here. So they thought, well, we're going to get them ourselves. And it just, I think what worried me more is that you can have something like a 7-season hotel that are clearly involved, or because if they wasn't involved, why did nobody listen to us when we were calling them at the reception, say someone's banging on, send security? No one sent anybody. They would have seen on the cameras probably who was knocking on our doors, and nothing happened. Even I remember being down talking to the manager the next day, and I was like, what kind of people are you? Like, you can see we're young girls, and I was like, there they are. And we were pointing at them jumping into their Range Rovers, and we were like, look, there they are. And they didn't even bat an eyelid. And it just made me realize you think you're safe because the environment looks like it's legitimate. You think this is all fine. They look professional. And in just a blink of an eye, it could have just switched. And if I didn't have that feeling of, right, let's go and get changed in our rooms when we did at that time, if I didn't delay us that little bit longer, and then we would have, you know, gone upstairs, it could have had a completely different result. And I think after that, I didn't apply for anything abroad anymore. There was one more job after that I did apply for abroad, but I used so much caution on everything. I wanted facts, but if I never had that experience, I would have fallen for that over and over again. And then I think how many of my friends, in the modern industry have. I've had quite a few female friends that's committed suicide in the industry, girls who started the same time that I did, and then about 2-3 years ago I found out that one of the girls I knew had committed suicide. And then you think, why? What did she experience within the industry for her to have had to have committed suicide? Because they flaunt, they flaunting drugs in front of you, even stuff like that. I've been surrounded by drugs all my life, and clearly God has been gracious enough to even protect me from that, because I've had people in front of me doing drugs and I haven't been interested. And imagine if I did, I could have been on drugs, and then situations like that, I wouldn't have even been aware to have thought twice about it. So if I had fallen for certain traps along the way, I could have fallen in. And I feel like that was God saying to me that this is your opportunity to open your eyes, because how many more situations are you going to fall in? Am I going to save you from before you actually wake up and take a breath? So I kind of stepped away from modeling at that point. I didn't go abroad anymore. I think I modeled for about six months after that, and then I completely stepped away. And no one understood at the time. Everyone thought I just stopped modeling. And I kind of said, my insecurities were there. I didn't feel confident anymore. But no one actually understood that I went through that, and even knew that I went through that. And that just played. And every time I was going for a job, it played in my mind. And that fearful feeling that even though is nothing to fear about, because that situation's safe that you're walking into, and I thought, I can't be in an environment, I can't work in an industry that can do that to people, because like you said, it could have gone completely 360.
And you saved those girls' lives. You did.
I see that as God had
definitely the boldness that God gave you. And this is what I love about your story is, guys, a lot of times we don't know God's there. He's there. We may not be following him. We may not be doing, what we should be doing as we know now. But God's with us, and we look back on our lives and we're like, wow, I was protected in that moment. Like God was with me.
100%.
So how would you tell models or aspiring models, what would you say to them to protect themselves? Like, how can they get modeling jobs without being afraid that this is going to happen to them? What are some things that they can do to make sure that for their safety, that they don't end up in this kind of situation? Because like I mentioned before, we follow the glamorous, and it's like, oh, you're going to be the next Tyra Banks, you're going to be the next this or that. And then, we get all excited, especially at a young age, to where we're chasing that neon rainbow. We're trying to get there. What do we have to do in order to get there? Do we have to sell our soul along the way? So what is something that you can give as an awareness to aspiring models, or even parents of aspiring models, to say this is the way you can protect your child or protect yourself?
I would say do research. Do research and use wisdom, because that's something I never did. And that was probably the worst scenario that I've been in. But I've been in scenarios where I've turned up to a shoot and the photographer said, take your clothes off. Yeah. And I'm like, hold on, what? And they're like, well, I need to know that a model is comfortable with me before I can shoot them. So I need you to take your clothes off. I need you to walk up and down, and then you can put your clothes on. And you look back at that and you think, that's not right. That's not. So if you're young and you're new in the industry, take a chaperone, 100%, because I never took a chaperone anywhere with me. So take a chaperone, research the companies. If you can't find anything, because I was really naive, all I saw was what they had on their Star Now account. I didn't do no research to say, can you give me a name? So now I can go and research that person's name. So I can go and can you give me the name of that hotel? So because if I would have asked those questions from the beginning, maybe they would have realized, okay, she's given our hotel details to her parents. She's given the phone numbers to her parents. They would have known from before, if anything happens to this girl, everybody knows her footsteps, where she is. But I didn't do any of that. So my thing would be is do your research, not just on this job, do your research on the company, on the person. If you don't find anything on it, don't do it. Because if it's legitimate enough, you'll find something. Even if you find another model that person's worked with, there has to be some sort of connection that you can link back to, that you can reach out to figure out if it's legitimate or if it's not, because that's something I didn't do. And I know a lot of girls in the industry didn't do as well, because we were all in the same kind of era. And I've heard a lot of stories of worse situations of even mine. And you just think, why. And most of the girls that have been in the same situation as me have come from outside of London, have come into London by themselves, no family, no friends. So they're here, big world, being naive, young, wanting to make it and break it, and you know, facing these difficulties along the way. So yeah, I would purely say use wisdom, take all the contact details, give them to someone that you know, and let that company know that you're sharing every single detail, from phone numbers, everything. Because
That's good. That's
yeah.
so good, because same with what I tell people about traffickers.
Mhm.
Um, Tell them, I've told everybody about you. I've told my mom about you. I've told my friends
Yeah.
about, I've told, because they want to be in, it's a secret sin, and
Yeah.
they don't want nobody to know their moves or what they're doing. So that is such awesome advice, Tia.
Yeah.
So good. And also, if you're traveling abroad, do not travel alone. I think
Yeah.
would be a really big
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So tell us, you're happily married, you're
I
in this amazing business. Tell us about what all is happening in your life now.
So now I think happily married is my most safest place, because
Yes.
it's the first time in my life that I feel stable, and I feel like somebody is there that isn't going to walk away from me or leave me or abandon me or let me down. And that's because he's a godly husband. So
Love it.
I
Yes.
think that's my biggest testament, is finding a godly husband. And now I think I'm ready to kind of set myself free from the past, I think 5 to 10 years, because I went through so much and I held it in. I do believe that had a knock-on effect on my health, because I've been in and out of hospital for the past, I'd say 5 to 7 years. I've also been dealing with like infertility issues and loads of situations that I'm not a doctor, but I personally feel, because I've held so much of my life in, and so much of, you know, grudges or pain or suffering, that is kind of manifested itself in my physical health. So I've spent the past 2 years building my health back up, because I had to quit my personal training. Everything I was doing, I just stopped, because I had zero energy for anything. I didn't have the strength. I had so many physical battles that I was facing, that I've spent 2 years just praying, trusting in God to help me on my health journey. And now I've kind of come back with a deeper understanding for people's physical sufferings. So my passion and my willingness to want to help other people now build their health up is more deeper, because before I just hear my clients complain. Now I can emphasize with my clients, and I can feel and I can sympathize, and I can say, I know what that feels like to not want to get out of bed. I know what that feels like to be physically in pain. So my drive and my passion now is is so much bigger. So I've created a website that's called livewellwithtia.com, and currently it's just starting out. So I've just been putting on some healthy nutrition videos, some fitness tips, but the main purpose, which it should be finished in the next, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, I'm going to be also opening up a section that's going to be more faith-based. So instead of just coaching people with their health and their nutrition, it's also coaching people physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I want to be offering one-to-one Bible studies where I can take people to the gospel that changed my life, because I was in and out of churches for a very long time. And I'm not saying God didn't have me there for a reason, or they weren't faithful churches, but he brought me to a specific church. And it's since coming here and actually being taught the gospel properly and getting a real understanding of the gospel, not one person pointed out the sin in my life. The gospel did. I would read something, it would grab me by my throat, and I'd think, hold on, I need to turn my life around here. I joined this church. Me and my husband, we were dating for about 5 years, sex outside of marriage, everything. And I heard one Bible study at this new church that I was in, and I came home and I said, whoa, like, we can't live together anymore. I shared to him the scriptures, and he said, I can't argue that, you know? And he moved out, and exactly 1 year later of that day of him moving out, we were married. We didn't kiss in that 1 year. The conviction that God gave me through his word, it just completely changed my life. And it didn't just do that with my relationship. It did it with my past, with my healing, with forgiveness, with trusting God more. So with my website, I want to help and direct people to the gospel in the way that God directed me to the gospel, and then let God do the rest. So people can come to me, but then I want God to do the rest in their lives. So that's basically it for me. So if anyone wants to improve their health and wellness, spiritually, physically, and mentally, then hopefully God can use me to bless them, and where he can get all the glory, obviously.
And I believe that God's going to, girl. I'm telling you, I believe. I have got chill bumps, and that is such a beautiful testimony. And I will say this, my sister, she told me, she said, you got to find a man that loves Jesus first, and then he'll know how to love you.
Amen.
And I used to think, you're crazy. I don't want no boring man. Like, what are you talking about? And then when God gave me my husband, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, there's a huge.
And you value the importance of it. When I had my son when I was 16, so I was definitely not following God's path when I had him. And when you're so young and you have no commitment, there's nothing that keeps you there. There's nothing that says, I have to stick at this. I have to work for this. I have to fight for this. And hence why by the time I was 19, I was a single parent. And my husband now, he came into my life when my son was 4. And he just came in and he took my son on, he took me on, and he said, I'm here for both of you, not just you. And now I value that, because if there's any clashes, you think, hold on, but we're married. And because we got married for God, we understand the value of it. We know it's not just a piece of paper. We know it's till death do us part. And you have that security of knowing you ain't leaving me and I ain't leaving you, because God is at the center of this. So whatever we're going through, we're going to come back. So when you've had a non-godly relationship, you appreciate a man of God so much, because when I'm weak, he pulls me up. When he's down, God uses me to pull him up. And it's just a constant cycle of God at the center, God at the center, that you don't have if you're not in a godly marriage. So it's a blessing.
Beautifully said, and so very, very true. Latia, thank you so much for being
Oh, thank
here.
you.
Such a blessing. Guys, we are going to list all of the ways that you can follow Tia. You can go to her website. We'll list all those things below. I appreciate you so much watching.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. And guys, just know that no matter what your past is, God has a beautiful future for you. And do not let the enemy steal that from you. So thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. I am Jody Paar. Much love. Bye.